Alright, so in the last video we introduced the concept of certainty and we illustrated it with several different examples so that we could see how it works. In this video we're going to be introducing some more terms that we use to talk about certainty and also the idea of positive and negative certainty so that we have a better handle on how certainty is talked about in different conditions. So for a few more words that can be used to describe certain scenarios, here's a quick list. This list is not exhaustive, but it is a good gathering of words. So these are words like determined, required, inevitable, unavoidable, sure, necessary, must happen, will happen, inescapable, guaranteed, cannot, will not, impossible, unattainable, unable, unachievable, and many more like these. Now, what do I mean by positive and negative certainty? So let's go back to the example we used in the previous video of a train coming up to an intersection with 3 tracks, A, B, and C. In one of the illustrations, we said that tracks A and B were disconnected, so that it was absolutely certain that the train would take track C. So track C, that is the outcome in the situation that will happen. And because it will happen, and certain to, that is the positive sense of certainty in this scenario, because that is the outcome that will happen. But just as certain as the outcome that will happen is the outcomes that will not happen. So tracks A and B, both of those are scenarios that will not happen. And I'm just as sure about that as I'm sure about the outcome that will happen. So these outcomes are under the negative sense of certainty. So now let's take a word from our list above and use it to describe positive or negative certainty. Now it's important to realize that each of these words is better suited for a positive or a negative use, though it could be used to describe both. So a word like necessary is better suited to the positive sense of certainty. So let's listen to how that sounds. So if we're talking about outcome C in the positive sense, we would say that it is necessary that the train takes track C, because that's what will happen. But I could also speak about both outcomes A and B using this word, even though it's more suited to being used in a positive sense, to speak of it in a negative sense. I can say that it is necessary that the train does not take tracks A or B. Same amount of certainty, but with just a little bit of a modification, we can use it in a negative sense. Now let's take a word that is more suited for a negative condition, something like unable. So we can say that, speaking of the negative outcome first, that the train is unable to take tracks A or B. That's the negative sense. But I could still use unable, though it's more suited for a negative condition, to talk about the positive condition of track C, what will happen. I would say that the train is unable to not take track C. So you see, it's still, we can use any of these words to describe either positive or negative certainty, even though certain words are better suited for the positive sense and for the negative sense. All right, in the next video, we're going to be talking about how to use these words in this language to describe our choices. Because when we start talking about our choices, things get a little bit more difficult.